the assembly step by step. From the sturdy case that holds it all to the motherboard, the heart of operations, and the powerful CPU. We'll tackle the GPU, the all-important RAM, and of course the storage and power supply. By the end of this video, you'll be well on your way to constructing your very own PC. Before we dive into the actual building process, it's crucial to pick out the appropriate components. The heart of your system lies in the compatibility of these components, but also about size and compatibility. It needs to accommodate all your parts and provide good airflow. Next, the motherboard. This is the backbone of your system, connecting all your components together. Look for one that supports your CPU and RAM type. Speaking of which, the CPU or central processing unit is the brain of your computer. Ryzen or Intel, the choice is yours. Just ensure it fits your motherboard and meets your performance needs. The GPU or graphics processing unit is key for gaming and graphic-intensive tasks. The RAM, or memory, affects your system's speed and multitasking abilities. The storage determines how much data you can hold. Lastly, the power supply. It needs to provide enough power for all your components. Now that you have your components ready, it's time to want to gently lower the motherboard into the case, aligning the holes on the board with the standoffs in the case. Once it's in the right position, you can secure it with screws, ensuring it's snug, but not overly tight. Remember, it's all about balance here. One of the most important aspects of this step is making sure your motherboard is properly grounded. This is vital to prevent any potential static electricity damage. Often your case will come with a pre-installed I/O shield that'll help with grounding, but it's always good to double-check. With the motherboard securely in place and grounded, we've laid the groundwork for the rest of the build. With the motherboard in place, it's time to add the brain of the operation, the CPU. With the CPU, which is the brain of your computer. It's worth mentioning that CPUs are quite fragile, so handle with care. Now locate the CPU socket on your motherboard. It's usually a square grid with a lever on one side. You'll notice a corner of your CPU has a small golden triangle. This triangle is your guide to correctly align the CPU with the socket. Gently place the CPU into the socket, making sure the golden triangle aligns with the corresponding mark on the socket. Once the CPU is resting comfortably in its socket, it's time to secure it. Lower the lever on the socket to lock the CPU in place. Don't worry, it might require a bit of pressure, but that's normal. And there you have it, your CPU is now installed. Remember, this is a crucial step that needs your utmost attention. With the CPU installed, we're ready to move on to the GPU and RAM. Carefully align your GPU with the PCI Express slot on your motherboard. It's usually the long slot with a small latch on the end. Push the GPU into the slot until you hear a click. That's the latch securing your GPU in place. Let's not forget about the RAM or random access memory. This is where your computer temporarily stores data it's actively using. Locate the RAM slots on your motherboard. They're usually long and thin. You'll notice a notch on the RAM stick that corresponds with a ridge in the RAM slot. Align these and apply equal pressure on both ends of the RAM until it clicks into place. Remember, more RAM means your computer can handle more tasks at once. For gaming or heavy-duty tasks, 16 to 32 gigabytes of RAM is a great starting point. Now that the GPU and RAM are installed, it's time. SSDs are like a digital bookshelf. They're fast and efficient but can be a bit pricey. On the other hand, HDDs are like a traditional bookshelf. They're slower but offer a lot more space for less money. To install, slide your drive into an open bay and secure it with screws. If you're using an SSD, you might need an adapter to fit it in a larger bay. Once secured, connect the SATA data cable from your motherboard to your drive. And finally, connect the SATA power cable from your power supply unit to your drive. With storage sorted, there's just one component left, the power supply that can handle the collective power draw of your components. Now let's get into the installation. Start by placing the PSU into its dedicated space, usually at the bottom rear of the case. Secure it in place with the screws provided. Next comes the part that can seem a bit daunting, cable management. But don't worry, it's not as complicated as it looks. The PSU comes with a variety of cables, each designed to power a specific component. We have the motherboard power, CPU power, GPU power, and SATA power cables. Find the corresponding ports on your components and connect them one by one. Cable management is crucial for two reasons: airflow and aesthetics. A clean, well-organized case allows for better airflow, keeping your components cool. Plus, it just looks better. Use zip ties or Velcro straps to bundle the cables together and keep them out of the way. And there you have it, your very own PC built from scratch. Now go ahead, press the power button and watch